Hey gang, Corey here. Today I'm going to be talking about The Wall, a digital illustration that I recently completed for a client, and I'll be sharing a little bit about my current situation with the manuscripts and talking about process. So, let's get to it. Okay, well, so what you're looking at here is the beginning process for a digital painting or illustration that I just completed recently for OnSpec magazine. OnSpec is, you can find them at onspec.ca. I'll put a link in the video notes. But anyways, OnSpec is a, what do you call it? It's an anthology that is published, I believe, quarterly of science fiction and fantasy writing. It's based out of Edmonton, and they basically source multiple stories from various authors and compile them into a little book and distribute it across Canada, I believe. So OnSpec approached Pulp Studios in 2015 about the possibility of doing an illustration or using an illustration, I guess, for one of their covers. They were looking at sourcing a couple illustrations that we'd completed in the past, and I was the lucky goose that was chosen. They used Victory March, which was a piece that I completed in 2010. Won a couple awards for it, and you can see it here. I'll show it real quick. So that piece they took interest in, and they used it on their summer 2015 publication cover. Now they had a release party for that book, and I got to meet Diane Walton, who's the art director and managing editor over there, and a number of the other editors and some of the writers that contributed to the book. It was great, and I want to make a shout out to Brent Knowles. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Brent. But anyways, he's a former BioWare writer, and he's currently working at Beamdog in Edmonton, doing writing for their properties that they're working on over there. He had a short story in the issue that was my cover was used on, and it was awesome when we were there at the release event. He did a reading from it, from the story called Red Means Go. It was totally awesome. So anyways, shout out to Brent. I hope everything's going well, and it was great meeting you there, and hope to see you again soon. So in March of 2016, Diane contacted me with an opportunity to do an illustration for a banner. The banner will be used at trade shows and other conferences and events that they go to promote OnSpec. The theme of the banner is Expect the Unexpected. So with that theme in mind, I went and did a couple sketches, which you can see here. I provided 3 sketches, and just exploring different kind of fantasy or science fiction, I guess, genres and content. They chose the dragonfly, well, because, you know, giant dragonflies. I mean, come on. That was kind of the unexpected element, I guess, not to mention the fact that the guy's riding a plane. Anyhow, so the nice thing is that this piece that I illustrated for them, it lies in context with 3 other pieces that I've illustrated over the past couple years, which are all set in the same world. I've kind of gone through this little bit of world building process with this story that I've been working on over the years. My original concept or idea around it was that I would do a series of illustrations. I think my original idea was for 12 illustrations that would tell a story arc. So you kind of put them in a row and you could kind of get little beats of the story through the illustrations. And that was taking a long time for me, just to fit these in with work and everything else that I've been had on the go. So I guess foolishly I thought, instead of doing that, what I would do is write a story, a novel. I don't know if you've ever read or seen the book No Plot, No Problem. Well, it's a great book. It totally prompted me into writing, and I thought for sure I could write a novel. So I sat down one November, I believe it was a couple years ago now, and endeavored to write the rough draft of a novel based on these initial sort of few sketches that, or illustrations that I'd done in this world building process that I've been going through. The novel is still on a hiatus a little bit right now, just because I've got too many other things on the go, but I am about 40,000 words into the rough draft of the novel. It's going to need a lot of work, and the story has become a lot bigger than I initially intended. And it's funny too how you start oftentimes with a story or an idea. You'll start with a certain what you think it is going to be, especially with writing. I've found I started with this idea of what I wanted to do, and as I wrote it, the characters kind of took over and the world took over, and it started to become something a little bit different than what I originally intended. I originally intended like a high fantasy type story, but it actually became more grounded and a little bit more just about the people in the story. Anyways, I'm not going to go on and on about it because it's fairly lengthy. But the cool thing is that I got to do this illustration for OnSpec, and it fits in that world, so I've been able to explore my world building and think about that story while I've been working on this illustration, which is like super cool. It's been really fun. So, the process, let's go back to the process here a little bit. So right now you can see I've incorporated color into the piece. The process that you've kind of seen here in fast forward, I took essentially from one of my favorite illustrators, John Foster. He did a workshop through, I believe it was through Gnomon Workshops, and you could access it online. I watched it and watched him create his work, and he talked a little bit about his process. After watching that video, that's what I used to build the Victory March piece, the same process, which has now kind of become my standard approach to doing these kinds of illustrations, where I start in grayscale with sketches. Sometimes I'll work the grayscale up a little bit more to a more finished state and then add the color. In this case, I kind of leapt in maybe a little bit too early, to be honest, with color, and started rendering and working things in color in Corel Painter. So I start my sketches in Adobe Photoshop, and then I bring it into Corel Painter and paint in there. I just really love the quality of the brush strokes that Corel Painter provides, and I really like the very analog, very natural media quality that comes out of the program. So this process was kind of piggybacking off of what I'd learned before and what I've done before in this kind of work. So it's using digital oil brushes, so it has a bit of a painted feel to it. And you'll see at times through the piece that I'm referencing existing illustrations that I completed for color, and also pulling back in photo reference that I have for some of the objects and the things that are in the piece. One of the things that I really struggled with in this piece was the design of the airplane. I ended up essentially re-rendering it, I think 2 times, maybe 2.5 times, which is totally inefficient. It's one of the takeaways that I got from working on this piece, is that I need to spend a little bit more time. Sometimes I need to slow down a little bit. I need to kind of do some more preliminary work before I jump into a piece. So more sketches, more compositional, just really quick compositional studies would be helpful. You know, taking maybe more or better photo reference, so that I have more to reference in terms of the things that I'm trying to create in the image. And also, in particular for the airplane, is to finalize designs before I render something. So before I go in and start painting something, close to finished, anything more than roughs or underpainting, I should make a point of having that object or that set piece designed on paper beforehand. And this was a big takeaway for me for this piece in particular. I don't know what the total is, maybe 5 to 10 hours I probably could have saved had I just slowed down and done those preliminary steps ahead of time. One of the things that came out of this, which in regards to time as well, in reflection on the process, is that maybe I need to take a step back, start playing, or not take a step back, I guess take a step forward and start playing with some traditional media in the way of painting again. I've got a lot of experience with acrylic painting, but I've never actually worked with physical oils. That's not true. I did once when I was like 12. I went to an art class and I tried to paint and I created a mud pit on my canvas. It didn't work very well. But my assumption or my thought is that maybe if I worked on a piece like this on canvas with oil, it would do a couple things. It would force me to consider the preliminary work, like I just talked about, a little more closely, because I can't reiterate and reiterate and reiterate as easily in analog. And also, it might actually be faster for me because of that point that I can't kind of tweak things over and over and over again. I have to be a lot more concise with what I'm doing. And also, I just feel like maybe the color and the layers and everything will get laid down quicker. It's an assumption, but it's something I've been kind of wanting to try for a long, long time, is to work on a canvas again with oils. So I might start doing that. My business partner and I have been talking a little bit about that, and potentially what we might do is try to fit in a couple hours a week here and there whenever we get the chance to just set up some easels and set up maybe a still life or something and just do some studies so that we can get a look at, what is it going to be like to work digitally, and will that actually work? So something to think about anyways, and something I've been interested in for a very long time. So in the illustration, you'll see in the background, there's this crazy rock formation, which is part of the world that they live in. It kind of rings the world. People can't come and go because it's this giant mountain rock formation range that kind of rings around the whole space that they live in. And then there's this crazy sort of weather pattern thing, storm above the rocks that makes it impassable by air. So I call the illustration the wall because it kind of signifies that location in the story. But also, as I've been working through it, as I've been working towards releasing this video and putting all this together, I've been thinking about what that means symbolically in relationship to work and illustration and art, and the whole sort of philosophical idea of a wall, and how sometimes professionally, creatively, personally, we can hit a wall. So I feel a little bit that I've hit a wall. I hit a ton of walls working on this illustration. There was a lot of parts that were extremely challenging for me. I really pushed myself working on it, which is good. But I also feel like I've hit a wall a little bit on working on my manuscripts and getting my work together for the children's books that I'm working on, which is what this whole video series is about, is that process. And so as I've been thinking about how we hit walls, I've been thinking about, like, what is it? Like, what's the wall? So in the illustration, while I was working on it, maybe it's a technical wall that I hit where I just technically don't have the skill or the training to complete this. And I felt that a little bit as I jumped back into Painter. I don't use Painter all the time in my commercial work. I use it more for personal work, and when I don't do these kinds of paintings on a regular basis, I kind of lose touch with what that software is and what it does. So it took me a little bit of work to kind of get comfy again in the software. So there's technical walls that we can face. There might be a lack of knowledge, so maybe a lack of understanding or knowledge of what I'm drawing. In this case, for sure, I don't know a lot about airplanes. So I studied a lot of World War II planes and stuff to see how they're structured and put together. It might be a lack of skill that is a wall for us, where you know you might be trying to render something or draw something, and maybe you just don't have the skill level yet to handle that weight or that piece that you're trying to render or create. Um, and there's no shame in that. That's just you need to develop those skills to be able to overcome that hurdle. And sometimes a wall might be internal, so it might be like maybe we're really tired or fatigued or stressed. Maybe we've got a lot of worry or we're afraid of failing. And these are things that I personally have felt and faced for sure. And I think these are common things that artists in particular will face, the more internal battles and struggles, the internal dialogues of maybe I'm not going to be good enough, maybe nobody will like the piece, this is taking too long, whatever it might be. I think that there are a universal sort of set of truths that come in terms of walls that creative people face. And I think going back to my stories, I feel like I've hit a wall right now with my manuscripts. I haven't had as much time to invest in working on them, so I've found that that's kind of slowed things down a little bit, and I'm finding myself a little bit stuck in regards to those things. But it's similar to the process of doing this illustration. I can't quit and I can't give up. I got to keep working. So walls, though they come in front of us, they kind of become this obstacle, and usually there's a way to climb them. So I got thinking about, climbing walls, and it made me think about when I was a kid and how I used to love climbing things, and how the world was just, I saw the world from a little bit of a different perspective, and challenges and stuff. Though life was hard, I didn't feel the weight of things as much, and so uh, I think, or I didn't acknowledge the weight at least, or didn't internalize it as much. I just sort of went through trying to solve the problems or overcome them. So, got me thinking about one time when I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was. It must have been young, I don't know, 10 years old or something, maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that. We went to visit this huge boulder out by Okotoks, Alberta. They call it Big Rock. There's a brewery named after it, Big Rock Brewery. It's a 16,500 ton rock, and it's 30 feet high. And I remember standing next to this thing. I remember driving up to it and looking at it and just being like, wow, that is a huge rock. And as we walked closer to it, just being astounded at the massive sheer size of this thing. And I remember standing beside it and just feeling like this overwhelming urge to climb it, but also this terrifying feeling like I'm not going to be able to climb that, or I might get hurt climbing it, or it's just going to be impossible to overcome. And I was I was just appalled at that. First of all, something like this could just exist on the prairies, that it could just sit there on the prairies and just be there. And then also, I was just blown away um, by its sheer massive size. So, with this sort of like trepidation and excitement kind of all mixed in, while I stood beside this rock, I proceeded to try to climb it. And my brother was there too. And I think we probably, I don't remember exactly, but we probably, both helped each other up this rock, or, figured out our way how to get up onto the top of it. In the end, I did climb it. And at the top of it, I found an amazing new perspective of the world around me. And being up on top of this rock, I was like, wow, the world looks really different from up here. And just this idea of being on top of this gigantic obstacle that was, in my way, uh, I had overcome, its rock faces and its things that I had to go over and climb over and step over and find the right handholds and the right direction to go to overcome this thing. And I did it. And it took a little bit of sweat and some courage, but I was able to overcome it. And I think that with that sort of vision in mind of that time in my life, and of that one particular act of overcoming that, I really think that my artistic journey, and that the artistic journey of anyone creative, there's similar moments in time where we have to see what this thing for what it is. It might look overwhelming, and it might be massive and feel imposing. But there's got to be a way to overcome it. There's got to be a way to find the right handholds, the right steps, and the right direction to be able to overcome it. It may not, I'm simplifying the problem a little bit, because obviously this is just a physical thing that's in the way. And when we come to things like fatigue and stress and worry and fear of failing, and there might be, some anxiety and depression mixed in there for some people, when we come to those things, it's hard to overcome that stuff. It's not simple. And it's not, oh, just climb it. There's a lot of aspects to it. And maybe you're going to need some, maybe I or whoever, whatever artistic journey you're on, maybe you're going to need some help on that journey. And that's where, just like Frodo with the ring, he couldn't have done it without Sam, right? He couldn't have got to the mountain and thrown the ring into the fire and overcome that without Sam's help. So, we all need our Sam in our creative life, and someone to encourage us and spur us along and help us through those difficult times. And I've got a number of people in my life that I really rely on that can help me with those things. My wife, of course, and my business partner, they're tremendous support and encouragement for me. So long story short, I'm going to be getting back into the working on my manuscripts at some point here soon. I know exactly what I want to write and what I need to do. I just need to make it a priority again. I need to set up the time that I need to be able to do that, to be able to work on it, and set aside the time, because it's not going to happen on its own. And I need to really be deliberate about setting up some larger chunks of time, so that my time is productive and I'm not constantly recreating the wheel. Similar in respect, I guess, to the illustration, where I reworked aspects of the illustration a few times, the clouds, the plane, and those reworks are time consuming and costly. I mean, working on a painting is a little bit of a different process for me than how I work on my commercial stuff. It's a little bit more exploratory, a little bit more by feel, and a little more creative in nature. So I do expect some level, a little bit more of an aspect of maybe spontaneity or inspiration that will impact my process around a piece. And I'm okay with that, and I accept that, and I think that's actually healthy to allow for some discovery through the process. I think that's part of the joy of doing it, is that it's not so linear and it's not so controlled, because a lot of the work that I do commercially is very controlled and heavily process oriented, because time is money in that respect. This piece, is a blend of making some money, but also just exploration and fun for me. And so, thankfully, the client chose, this piece, because it has such a wonderful tie into everything that I'm undertaking. It ties into one of my side projects that I've been working on over the years. It ties into something that I don't get to do enough, which is just painting in general, and I love it. So it's been wonderful having the opportunity to explore the medium again and the process. So that's a little bit about the wall symbolically. I'm thankful that this piece has got me kind of thinking on this track. It's funny how, as I work on pieces and as I work on my personal work, I often find that those processes and that time spent somehow ties into the rest of my life in one way or another. And I think there's always something to learn through these processes. So that's my philosophical component of the video today, and I hope that I mean, I hope that that there's something in there that resonates for you, and I want to encourage everybody that um, not to stop at the wall. You know, when you're working or when you're in anything you're doing in life, if it's in a relationship, if it's just a personal goal, working out, exercising, the things that you need to do to stay healthy, eating well, getting enough rest. If there's anything that you're trying to do to improve your life or to improve your skill or your understanding of something, if you're reading about things or studying, don't allow yourself to hit a wall and then walk away and give up, because there's always something awesome on the other side of overcoming that wall. There's always growth, and there's always good things if we are willing to push ourselves and in a sense, you know, be humble and understand that we're not we're all in process. Our skill is in process. Our personalities are in process. Our character is in process, and we might need help along the journey too. So just make sure that you're not giving up when you hit those walls. Don't let them overcome you, but you need to overcome them. And through that process, you're going to grow and you're going to get better at what you're doing. You're going to see fruit come out of that. So that's my encouragement to you. The piece itself is going to be on a banner used by OnSpec for a banner for their trade shows and stuff. They also loved it so much that they've acquired the rights to use it on a cover, so it will eventually be on a cover sometime down the road. And they're also going to use it in some just smaller advertising, which is great. So that's really fun that the client, they've really responded favorably to the piece, and they're excited about it, and they're going to use it in multiple ways, which is really cool for me. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing it out there being used. It's going to be on display on a banner at the Edmonton Comic Convention, which is coming up fairly soon here in Edmonton. So that's great. And then I don't know when it's going to be on the cover. They haven't decided yet when they're going to use it for a cover, but they are going to, which is awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you can I apologize for the screen cap. I'm not sure how else to do this. It jumps around quite a bit, and a lot of the later parts of the video here, it's very like small work. It's not the big broad strokes. It's small little tweaks and adjustments. So it might be hard for you to kind of pick up exactly what's going on. I don't know how else to go about that to avoid, because I'm zooming in and out. That's what the jumping around is I'm zooming in and out on the piece as I'm working on it. And so I apologize. I hope it wasn't too jarring for you. And anyway, I hope that you really enjoyed it, watching the process. I hope that my talk has some value for you. And I just want to encourage everybody to go out there and climb those walls and overcome. Have a great one, you guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch this process, and if you want to, it would really help me if you shared this video on social media or leave me a comment or something. It'd just be nice to know if people are actually enjoying these or finding them valuable. So thanks very much, and until next time, I will be working.